Hi, everyone. Before the episode begins, I just want to remind you to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Marlene the Plant Lady and YouTube, Everything Gardening with Marlene Simon. And remember, please, please, please rate and review on iTunes and Spotify. That just helps the podcast get noticed by more people, and then more people will become better gardeners. And that's what we all want. So enjoy the episode.
Look at that plant. I want you to know that everything was grown in my garden. Don't touch that plant!
Is it poisonous?
She'll become part of the plant.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Flower Power Garden Hour. I'm your host, Marlene, and this is your October to-do list. And remember, I'm coming at this from zone 9, so if you are in a different zone, you may have different to-do tasks, but some of this may carry over. And when in doubt, always look up USDA.gov. They will tell you what zone you are in. So before we get into what to do for October in your garden and answer some of your questions, I'm just going to give you a recap of the month of September because, man, it was a doozy of a month. So if you remember listening to my last September to-do list, I was off doing the John Muir Trail.
And?
Oh, hi, Joe.
Hey.
I forgot to introduce you.
No, that's not what I was
look what
talking
happens when I forget to introduce you. You just interject anyways. Go on. And?
You said this month was quite the doozy.
Yes.
Then you went to the John Muir Trail.
Yes, and we passed by the doozy trail. Yes, okay.
Not just passed by.
We were on the doozy.
I don't want to fast forward, but that was where big things happened.
Okay. Doozy is an off-roading trail that Joe's wanted to do for years.
Doozy or Shime.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so the John Muir Trail is 220 miles. We made it, me, my hiking partner, Joel, not Joe. A lot of people, when I posted Joel, they just assumed that was Joe. Joel, who is a coworker of mine, he's a plant biologist professor.
I thought you were going nameless.
Now I'm just going to throw it out there.
Okay.
Throw him under the bus. This was the second time. Last year, he had to bail halfway out because his dog was injured at home and he had to come and help for it. And then he was supposed to do the Pacific Crest Trail. And then he got caught up in snow because it was a huge snow year. So he was going to join the John Muir Trail. And everything was going really well. Suffered some altitude. I don't even know if it was so much altitude as I didn't eat properly. That's a big thing with mine. If I'm doing stuff, I'm not very hungry. Anyways, we were day 6 in 5 nights. I was feeling really good, getting into a good stride. I told myself 7 days in, I'll feel like I'm really doing this. I'm an endurance person, so it takes me a while to get into the groove of anything. But I was in the groove and we were back on a resupply trail, meaning we got off, stayed at this quote resort place, got resupplied with food. My pack was pretty heavy. The trail we were back on was beautiful, like swimming hole areas, really dense forest. And next thing I know, I turn a corner and there's Joel flat out on the ground. And my first thought was, that's funny. Why is he mimicking taking a nap right there? And little did I know, well, it quickly dawned on me that he had just stepped off on a slightly uneven ground. Both feet flipped out from underneath him and suspected broken ankle. And I knew our trip was over. Helicopter came, got him. I didn't see him being hoisted up, but I had to backpack out before it started getting dark. So he was with a group of people. Another group came along. They carried him to an open area. And it was a CHP helicopter. They hoisted him out and I had to hike 9 miles back by myself, which is fine. I was just trying to do it before, but incredibly disappointed. But we already have plans for next year. Already know a few things I'm doing different next year. Hopefully Joe could join us next year. So then everything came back. Everything's good. And then my stomach just revolted. And I've been getting a whole bunch of tests done for my stomach with Giardia-like symptoms. Figured I had Giardia. First test came back negative because a week after I went in an open water swim in a nearby lake. So I thought, well, I probably didn't get Giardia from the mountains. We were filtering water. And even then it was super clear. I know you can't tell from super clear water, but it was really high up. So chances of anything being up there. But the lake I was swimming in, First test of Giardia came back negative, waiting for a round of different tests. But the last 3 weeks have not been pleasant, but classes have also started. So we got a new group of interns. I started up a volunteer program. And so we have our first volunteer night this Thursday. I taught a Merit College class, which is a community college out in Oakland. I taught a disease class for them. And so lots been going on. Been recording a lot of podcasts, but haven't been doing a lot of working out. Finally got into the garden because I've just been so low on energy, because that's what happens when you're trying. Really, I was not really eating much because I was trying to prevent my stomach from revolting on me. But finally got into the garden this weekend, ripped out some tomatoes, put my second round of winter veggies in. Normally I don't pull out the tomatoes this early on, but they're flowering, they're producing, but just not at the rate. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to pull them out now and put some winter veggies in while I'm feeling okay. And so that's about it. So lots going on. Oh, one more kitten. Picked up a kitten yesterday. Been holding pretty steady on the cat numbers. And then went to the grocery store real quick yesterday, and these ladies were getting rid of some cats. And, of course, I had to tell them, don't just give them out to anyone. They could be dog fighting bait. They were black cats. Halloween time's never good to get rid of black cats. They're like, we know, but we just can't. We have so many cats. And I took one home. He's a cute little thing. Her. I haven't even figured out if it's a girl or boy yet. Anyways, Joe, it's been a busy month.
Yeah, you went through that pretty quick.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't want to drag on. Yeah.
Some pretty good stories in there.
It's actually very good stories. Just the whole having your hiking partner airlifted out, having to hike back, you coming to get me in the middle of the night, you preparing a sled because I said, hey, Joel broke his ankle and we don't want to call a helicopter. And you're like, I'm on this. So you show up with our old wheelbarrow taken apart, where you have a harness for your chest, where you were going to haul him out 7 miles. And but by then he was airlifted out. I'm like, Joe, there's no way you're going to drag his ass out.
Wait, no. We can go do it tomorrow. I'll drag you out.
Should we?
Wheelbarrow is ready. We just have 2 cats that live in it.
Yeah, we have 2 cats who now live in the wheelbarrow because you put some nice foam in there for him. He was going to have a nice cush ride.
There was a skid plate on the bottom.
Skid plate on the bottom.
Skid plate made.
Yeah. Oh my God. So I left before he was airlifted out. The helicopter was there. There's a group of people. But I'm like, I need to get out of here before it gets dark. I don't want to be hiking in the dark. And turns out, though, they didn't take his pack with them. But luckily, the group that he was with, one person was like, I'll take your pack out. But I can imagine if I waited, if I heard that, I would have been carrying his pack along with mine. So I'm glad I sort of left before. But his ankle's fine. It was just a bad sprain. He has bad ankles. He definitely, he hurt them. He fell 70 feet one time mountain, rock climbing. So he busted both of those, but he's embarrassed. Should I mention his name again?
Oh my God, you're so mean.
He was episode 3 on this podcast.
Oh, that was really evil.
Spider biologist. He's actually our first talk for the lecture night at the conservatory for fall, talking about his adventures with spider biology.
Well, now he's going to be talking about how he had a near miss ankle break on the John Muir Trail.
Yeah, he's embarrassed, but whatever. But lessons learned. Next year, it's just a pain having to wait a whole year.
Don't tell him where I was at today.
Where are you at today?
CHPIT.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So people are like, God, that helicopter must have cost a fortune. No, CHP, it's free. And they were super excited. They were training all day doing the exact same thing because they had to, I forget what it's called, long rope or something so they don't land. They couldn't land. There's not a spot to land. So they lower someone down. And then as they're hoisting them up, they're like, hey, can we post this video on social media? And he's like, no. And they were very disappointed because they're like, this is what we're practicing all day. And I'm like, he should have asked, just blur my face. And then, yeah, but.
And then the plant lady will just blast my name out everywhere.
Exactly. I'll just blast it out everywhere. Well, I can't let people think it was you, Joe. That was embarrassing. I mean, not embarrassing at all. But when people are like, how's your husband? I'm like, oh, that wasn't my husband. My husband would crawl Sorry, Joel. There's no way my husband would have the CHP called. He'd be crawling. It would have been like 2 weeks later, and you might finally make it out of that trail. But I mean, he was hoping for a horse, but they don't want to take the time. It's easier for them to just get a helicopter out. That's it. People don't understand. People think, oh my God, a helicopter, that's so dramatic. But for them, that's just the easy, quick way out.
There was a quad at that little camp too.
There was no way a quad was going to get you out. No way. No way.
We could do 2 trips.
Let's
we'll do
just
one
do
with
that.
the wheelbarrow
Fine.
and we'll do one with the quad.
Fine. Why don't you just hike it and you'll see? There's no way. Okay.
That's a challenge.
Okay, fine. A quad would have taken longer. They just want to do quick and easy. So more risk with the quad, more risk with a horse, more. Fine, your wheelbarrow idea
The
was
horse,
just great.
I'm not doing crap with the horse.
Yes.
Screw the horse.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Anyways, all right, let's go through what to do for October. I made a confession saying I actually don't like fall. The shorter days, I can't stand. I absolutely love long days. I mean, it is dark at 6:30 in the morning. It's going to be dark at 6:30 at night. Give me long days. Anyways, what to plant now? Yes, it's transition time. Fava beans, beets, bok choy, carrots, celery, Swiss chard, collards, garlic, kale, kohlrabi, leeks, lettuce, onion, peas, radish, spinach, turnips. Notice I did not say cauliflower or broccoli last month, and then there'll be another round for broccoli come February or so. But right now, should have already had it planted. And so these are your winter crops to plant. And as far as your ornamentals, pretty much any perennial goes. I would avoid planting frost-sensitive plants like avocados. Citrus, I could still push it right now. Beginning of October, I would still push it. So pretty much any perennials because it's going to be...
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by what?
You can still push what?
Beginning of October, temperatures are still warm enough for them to get somewhat established before the frost
what?
come. Citrus.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Bulbs early, it's on the early side, but you could buy them and definitely start chilling your hyacinths and tulips. Grasses, you could start cutting them back, but I really like the look of them in the fall. But now if you wanted to divide them and they're dying back, now would be the time to cut them back, dig them up, divide them to make them smaller. You could divide your irises. They're starting to die back. Of course, add compost and give back to your soil to build your soil up. Clean up your veggie gardens. If you have any suspected pathogens or disease, don't put them in your compost. Any weeds with weed seed, do not put in your compost. You don't want that in there. Clean up your fruit mess. If any fruit that's fallen, you want to pick that up. You don't want to leave that on the ground because that could harbor overwintering pests. So it's a balance between cleaning your garden up and leaving enough stuff there for your beneficials, your birds, your wildlife. So when in doubt and you think there's a disease, definitely get that out of the garden and don't put that in the compost. But you could leave leaf debris. You could leave, sunflowers I'm cutting down and just leaving some of the stalks they make great homes for some insects. Collect any seeds that you want right now as well on your flowers. And really, it's just a mix of cleaning up from summer and getting your fall garden ready. So that's about it. Yeah.
You going to post that list up anywhere? I know I bug you every time.
You bug me every time.
Do you?
No.
No.
I'm really bad at social media lately. I'm really not posting as much as I should. It's just so busy.
Why don't you just post a list?
I'll post. Okay, that's not that exciting. I'll post it with this. You know what?
But isn't it helpful?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
So isn't the helpful part more important than the exciting part?
No, I got news for you. Helpful on social media does not outweigh. Look at the cat videos. Are those helpful? No. Fun gets the clicks. Right? Yeah.
What do you get out of that?
What?
I'm
just telling you, when you send me cat videos and videos.
I know. But if somebody's looking for something that is helpful, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that going to be more useful?
Joe, people don't look at social media for helpful. They look at it for just laughs and entertainment.
I use the YouTube as my primary form of education.
There you go. You said YouTube.
I said the YouTube.
The YouTube. I don't really post on the YouTube. So I'm talking about Instagram and Facebook. People just want, oh, look at the kitty cat. He's driving a tractor.
Maybe you're doing your education on the wrong form of the wrong application of
I know.
media.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
True. Okay. I will try to get this list up. Yes. All right. Question time.
The grasses that you talked about.
What? Yeah.
Is this a
I just-
feature of your gut illness? What?
Well, you even did say that my brain is like shrinking. Yeah.
You're super dehydrated.
Yeah. I'm pretty hydrated finally. Finally.
Why do you say that?
There's just signs that I'm actually hydrated. I'm peeing now.
Yeah, but what are you drinking?
Pedialyte, lots of Pedialyte.
Are you buying it? Like, not it. All right.
I have some at work.
You have some at work.
Yeah, I just keep it at work.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
You bought more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just finished off your bottle of Pedialyte that's been here for like 4 days.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
For dinner.
Is White Claw? Is White Claw?
Probably not so hydrated.
Okay. Just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have that at work, for those wondering.
No, that's in the car.
No. Don't say that. No. Do not drink and drive. Do not drink and drive.
Lord.
Don't say that. Okay.
All right. Alice has an aphid infestation
Mhm.
on large trees.
Yes. Okay. So, interesting is I've been getting a few questions, and I actually ran to the hardware store / nursery this morning to buy something for work. And some guy's like, "Hey, you're the plant lady." And I'm like, "Yes, I am." And then he's like, "What's with all the trees and the sap?" And so, and then the other day I was walking downtown and I heard some guy say, "Why do they plant all these trees that drop all this sap?" And I had to zip my mouth because I didn't want to get on my soapbox and explain it to him. It is not the tree. So about 15 years ago in Davis, the hackberries were inundated with woolly aphid. It's an aphid, but it's got this fuzz on it. And they're a sucking insect going into the phloem, pulling out the sugars. So when you're walking or you park your car underneath it, your feet literally are sticking. You could see the stickiness on the ground. Your trees are coated, or cars are coated in this. Once again, it's not the tree sap, it's the insect poo. They were inundated and the trees were defoliating and looking awful. And then what came about was the Bayer imidacloprid, the Bayer tree and shrub. And everyone thought it was wonderful. This is the first time I heard about, this might have been 20 years ago, to be honest. I'm going to say 17 years ago. Imidacloprid, which is the systemic chemical you pour at the base of the tree and it uptakes it, and whatever sucks on the tree gets killed. So it saved the hackberries. It saves a lot of trees. But now we know that imidacloprid, it's in the tree. So if you apply it and then the tree blooms, well, any of the pollinators going to it are going to get it. Any beneficials that come and eat the insects or feast on it are going to get it. So it is not good. They think it's part of the reason honeybees are suffering. So the hackberries have been fine. I haven't seen huge woolly aphid infestations in Davis. And then this year, bam, maybe because of the heavy rains, but it is bad. So the ground is all sticky. Cars are all sticky. The trees are holding. They're looking okay. They're not incredibly defoliating, but I've been getting this question a lot. And in fact, someone today wrote to me saying our gardener is telling me that it's not from the tree, that it's from an insect, and it's because we didn't treat our tree in the fall, and I don't know who to believe. And I haven't written them back, but I'm going to say, well, your gardener's correct, but I'm going to just say ride this out. It's going to be fall soon. It's going to be cold, and the cold winter, well, first of all, the trees are going to defoliate. The cold is going to knock the woolly aphids, and hopefully it won't be so bad next year, because we definitely do not want to use a systemic. You can use a systemic, but you have to time it so it's not where the pollinators are coming. And of course, a lot of trees are not pollinated by insects. They could be wind pollinated, but you still want to be careful, and it's still not a good idea. So I think we're coming into the cold season. The leaves are going to drop on their own. and we'll wait and see next year. It might be a game changer. They may not be around, but that is the reason. So yes, some trees are more susceptible to aphids, but these are the woolly aphids that I've seen, and it's bad this year, and maybe because we had the heavy rains. Who knows? But yeah, it's the imidacloprid, which was the game changer, but I would not use it unless you have the timing down perfect and your tree is on the verge of death. But I would say just wait it out. But yeah, that's what's going on.
Okay. From Joyce. We had a lemon tree planted in March. It's producing lemons, but the leaves are turning very pale. What do they need?
All right. So you planted in March. So that's a very young tree and you're getting fruit already. So, which is, capable, but a lot of times I tell people who aren't getting fruit that it could take 3 to 5 years for your lemon, your citrus to start producing because they're establishing their roots. So what's probably going on here is it produced lemons, but it was a big nitrogen use. So it sounds like it's suffering from nitrogen deficiency. And if it's in a pot, definitely you want to fertilize it. If it's in the ground, and it looks fine, it's not dropping leaves, it could just use a little bit of fish emulsion. That's fine. The theory is that you never let a young tree produce fruit because that is inhibiting it from growing and it's taking away its resources. But I know that's easier said than done, plucking off fruit when you're like, wow, I could get some fruit off of this tree already. So in theory, that's the idea, is you never let it produce fruit. You pick it off because you want the plant to take all those nutrients and resources and establish itself. But I think it just sounds like it's just depleted of nitrogen if it's an all over yellowing of the leaf. And go from there. A little bit of fish emulsion. Hopefully it's not dropping leaves, because that's a whole different thing. That could be just a root rot. That could be some strangling roots. But if it's just all over yellowing and it produced fruit, that was just a big energy nitrogen consumption.
Okay. Done with that one? Completely answered?
I'm done. Didn't you like that one?
I did. Usually there's spots that I can interject with questions.
I know. What does that mean? That you're just not on it, or I answered everything perfect and I left nothing open? That one.
Somewhere in the middle.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Jonathan, what is the best time to trim my cherry tree? Am I too late already this year to do it?
So yes.
Does it matter what kind of cherry tree?
Well, I mean, there's ornamental and then there's fruiting cherry. So I'm assuming it's a fruiting cherry. So fruiting cherries, yeah, you want to usually prune when they're starting to, right in spring, when they're starting to leaf out. The reason being is that they'll heal their wounds quicker because they are susceptible to certain diseases. So you don't want to prune them during the wet spell or when they're pretty dormant and they're not actively growing. So for cherries, I would do later when it's more on the late spring side. And that's really to prune them, to lower their height, open them up, thin them out to get their structure, a lot of airflow going on. Then with most fruit trees, or all fruit trees, you could do a summer pruning where you could cut the tops to drop the height down a bit more. And that's usually after they finished fruiting. So you're not pruning off any potential flower growth. I would not do it now because we are coming into, in theory, the wet season. So you don't want those wounds staying open. Even though it's warm enough, they could probably heal themselves. I still would wait until spring to prune. I would not do it now. I don't see the benefit of doing it now because you don't have to worry about it flowering and fruiting and not reaching the fruit and having any. So there's really no point in pruning it now. I would wait until next spring when you see growth occurring. And then really with cherries, it's usually just shortening them, opening them up, thinning it out. And go from there.
Relatively standard pruning.
They're a little bit different. They're more upright. So it's more of like, it's not so much as a wide open canopy as it was more of a vertical canopy, but the same idea goes as you want to do some heading cuts, which means shorten the stems, to shorten the branches to make it shorter. But then you also do want to do some thinning cuts, which is removing complete branches back to a branch of equal or larger size to really open it up. So yeah, in that terms, that's the same. Yeah.
All right.
But you want to do it when it's actively grown so it could heal those wounds pretty quick and not any time where there's going to be amounts of rain.
This is from Felicity. So I'm assuming you had some sort of tomato plant that you've been talking about somewhere?
Actually, I wasn't. I think I just said I was, no, actually I said I think I was ripping out some tomatoes, which is true.
You said that somewhere.
I said that somewhere on my Facebook,
Okay.
I believe.
Well, she wants to know, did you compost that tomato plant? She's heard it's not great to compost them because of fear of diseases.
Yes, if you had a suspected disease, do not compost your tomatoes. And suspected diseases with tomatoes could be verticillium wilt, fusarium, and phytophthora. And all three of those could look very similar. They all mimic the symptoms basically are all yellowing and then dieback. Fusarium will result in a completely dead plant eventually. Phytophthora and verticillium wilt, they could struggle, still produce, but you have this yellowing and some dieback. All those, I shouldn't say all those, but verticillium wilt, fusarium, and phytophthora, they all survive in the soil. That is why you rotate your crops for tomatoes, because if you keep planting year after year, you have them in the soil, it's just going to give the disease, or it's actually a fungal-like. Most of those are fungal-like. They're more like a water mold, a place to live. So you don't want to give them a host basically. So that's why people rotate their crops. And yeah, you don't want to put it in your compost because you may not kill everything off. If you have a virus, you don't want to put it in there. It's just good practice of not putting it in there, especially if you have nematodes. If you pull out a tomato, if your tomato wasn't doing well, no matter what, always look at your tomato roots. I'm sort of just trained myself. Even though my tomatoes were fine, the few that I pulled out, I looked at the roots. You just want to make sure you don't have those nodules, which are the root knot nematodes. In that case, you definitely don't want to put it in your compost, and you can't plant the tomatoes back in there anytime soon at all, unless you plant nematode-resistant varieties, because there's really no cure for that. So really, the longer you could go without planting tomato in a soil with these pathogens, the better off you're going to be. But some of these pathogens, they're going to last like 10 years in the soil. So yeah, never put disease type in your compost bin, but I wasn't concerned, so they're going in my compost bin. So only if you are concerned, meaning your plant died completely, your plant didn't produce, there was more yellowing than green, there was nematodes, there was nodules, you cut open a stem and there's black pith in the center of your stems. Those are all signs that there might be one of these diseases. So don't put it in your compost bin, just put it out with the garbage.
How hot does a compost pile potentially get?
Oh boy, I have to think back to I should know this, but remember the Good Compost podcast we did? The guy who was
Yeah, Mr. Compost.
Mr. Compost. Yeah, Mr. Compost. No, what was it? What was he? He was, oh my gosh, he had a nickname. I can't remember anything. Great episode, but I forget how hot they're supposed to get. I should know this, but I don't.
Okay. It's not hot enough to kill whatever that
No,
thing is.
and you know, it might be, and it's a lot of this stuff needs material, moisture, and warm temperatures to survive. So your compost bin, in theory, has all that: warm temperatures, moisture, and if it's breaking down, there's enough material for it to survive. So yes, you don't want to put it in your compost bin. Enough, yeah, because I think these pathogens survive in soil 65, 75. So some of the outer laying areas of your compost bin are going to stay that cool. They're not going to heat up that much.
Any plants besides tomatoes that are very common for pathogen transfer?
So you think, okay, the Solanaceae, if they like the tomatoes, that they might as well like your peppers, and they might as well like your eggplant. And it's true, if you have suspected issues with your peppers and your eggplants, don't put them in there. Same with potatoes. So all the Solanaceae potentially, but there's something about tomatoes, and also that like I believe it's the if I'm not mistaken, is it verticillium wilt or phytophthora will hit melons and legumes and stuff. So same thing goes. If anything looks diseased, just don't put it in your compost bin.
Your compost bins that you have in the back.
I'm the worst composter. I am the laziest composter. I always try, but I never water in the summertime. I don't turn over. I'm a very passive composter. And then I produce so much material, so much, because my garden's so big that it's literally like, and I don't cut everything as small as I should. I make huge piles, and that's not ideal. I think it's like 5 by 5 is the ideal size for a compost pile. It's smaller, whereas my pieces are huge. So I'm the worst composter. It's a passive thing. If it stays there and it breaks down, great. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you answered my question.
Yes.
Yeah. You suck at composting.
I suck at composting. Mm-hmm.
One more question.
All right.
It's from Denise.
Okay.
Do you feed your succulents with succulent food? I just purchased MG bird. Oh boy.
Go ahead. Say it, Joe.
MG food fertilizer.
Okay. MG, what does that stand for, Joe?
Metro Golden Mare.
Isn't that MGM?
It is.
Yeah. You forgot the M.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. Miracle Grow. Miracle Grow.
got it.
So our succulents at work get the same fertilizer all of other plants get, and that's all they need. So if you have a complete fertilizer, complete means that it is got the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So if you see, those 3 numbers on a bag, 444, 555, 16, 16, 16, those are all your macronutrients. And if you look on the back, a lot of them are going to have some micronutrients like sulfur. And if you mix that in with your tap water, it's getting all the rest of the micronutrients because tap water is going to have that. So that is fine. There's no, you don't need a special fertilizer. Now you may say, oh, well, succulents, they're more green and they don't flower as much, so they should have more nitrogen. Not necessarily true. You hear that middle number. Phosphorus is the bloom formula. No, as long as a plant's happy and it's getting everything it needs, it's going to bloom and be fine. So a lot of this stuff is all marketing. You can have the Miracle Grow and it'll be for tomatoes. It's going to be for hydrangeas. It's going to be for your succulents. Really, they don't need that much differentiation. They all need the macronutrients. They all need the micronutrients. They don't need necessarily. So the macronutrients, they're called macronutrients because they're not more important. The plant just needs them in higher doses, and that's why those numbers are up front. But they all need micronutrients. They all need macronutrients. They all need the macronutrients in a higher number than the micronutrients. And if they're in a potting soil, if they're in the ground, then they should be fine. If they're in a potting soil, yes, they need more fertilizer than if they're in the ground. But really, we don't differentiate. We basically give our leafy plants the same amount as our succulents. Now, how often you fertilize, that depends on the dose you give, the fertilizer you use, and that's where you tweak it, and that's where it's hard to say. But no, don't fall for the gimmicks of, oh, this is a succulent fertilizer. I'm going to use this over, a tomato fertilizer. No need.
So fertilizer is basically like the supplement industry of the plant world.
Oh yeah. If you go, oh my God. So if you go to like it's a hydroponic store, i.e. a cannabis store, the amount of fertilizer brands, the amount of labeling, the amount of just different products for it. And, the last cannabis person I had on, they're like, no, we don't do any of that. We just do the fertilize. And we fertilize with standard stuff. So it's still a gimmick. People still fall for it. It's sort of like, your supplements as, it's like, oh, I need to take all this stuff. If you eat a healthy, well-balanced food throughout the day, you don't really need supplements. So it's sort of the same thing. If you give your plant just great soil, great compost, if it's in a pot, yes, but if you give it a well-rounded, just any fertilizer, you don't need to give it all this fancy different stuff for it. Yeah.
All right.
Do you take vitamins, Joe?
No. I'll go through phases of where in the morning, there's like pre-workout mixes. Most of them are just like really heavy on the caffeine.
Exactly.
And that's really I think the major thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, because you eat really well. You don't need a supplement.
Don't
you just pee it out?
I'm not I'm not anti-supplement.
Yeah.
It depends on there's quite a few now that
Okay.
I think are quite effective. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, think of it this way: is if you don't need it, you tend to just piss it out. If plants don't need it, it could burn the plant.
There's been some a couple of nootropics I've taken.
Yeah. Once I figure out what that means, I'll be on board with you. But I have no idea what that means.
All right.
And you're not going to tell me again.
Huh?
Every time I say I don't know what it is, you just don't tell me.
I'll let you study on your own.
Oh, forget it. That's never going to happen. I just
Okay.
need the cliff notes. I
That's-
just need the summary. Anyways, we'll talk about that later. People are like, what is that? Does Joe have his own podcast? I want to learn about that.
I do, and it's called, what is it?
Your podcast?
We're gonna do the cat.
Oh, the cat one. We're not talking about your supplements on the cat one.
No, I didn't say I'd talk about.
Oh, isn't it
supplements.
what is it? Where we the
Is Cat Cast already
cat
taken?
cast? I'm sure cat cast is already
It's
taken.
gotta be.
The percast is already taken, so I'm sure the
Oh.
cat cast.
Yeah,
I still think it should be Beetle, Goat, and Friends
I don't like that.
because it's not cat oriented. People won't know.
No, I don't care about that.
Beetle, Goat doesn't have friends.
I don't like. There's something about it. Just-
Really?
No,
Oh,
No,
interesting.
not a good name.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Cat cast.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's it. Oh, I forgot my Patreon early on.
Ah, you
This is-
suck.
I suck. I'm horrible at this.
God.
Oh, I'm horrible at this. Okay. So if you want to support, speaking of cats, if you want to support our cats, we're up to
Okay,
20
not
what?
our cats.
cats.
Yeah,
Cats.
yeah. These are like
Like the 20,000 that we rescued
Find,
and
get stuck
fixed
with.
and then found homes for.
yeah.
Yes.
Who are the latest ones? There's the one that you just brought back.
Oh, I call him Spooky.
Spooky.
I know I shouldn't though. He's a black kitty cat. It's around
Okay.
Halloween.
Yeah.
So cute. Yeah, I just found him in the parking. Well, ladies were giving him away. Tiger 10 is still waiting to go to his home, so we just fixed him.
Yeah.
Oh, Bandit.
Bandit.
You
Yeah.
rescued him from a
Yeah.
I think we might have told people about this one.
Maybe.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, rescued him from a lady was just recently homeless. You fixed her flat tire, but she had all of her stuff and her cat in a storage unit. So Bandit.
She was very happy that
Yes.
Bandit was going to be able to go to a good home.
Yes.
So,
yes. But
yeah.
we would like to get Bandit an indoor home. Well, let's be honest, an indoor
He's
outdoor
an indoor
home.
outdoor cat.
He is.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, we have Bandit.
And he's been spending nights in the back house,
Yes.
the back compound.
Yes, yes. So yes, and then gearing up for spring, we know there's going to be other new litters coming along. So anyways, if you want to support the podcast and the cat rescue, where we fix them, get them all their shots, and then rehome them to indoor homes, go to Patreon, Flower Power Garden Hour. There's only one tier. It's $5 a month. I have a few Patreons. That's nice.
I think it's patrons.
Thank you. Patrons.
Yeah.
Okay. Patrons, yes.
I think if you had multiple Patreons,
Okay.
it'd be multiple places to donate.
Got it. So it's just patrons. Anyway, so there's just only one tier. And that's it. And of course, if you share the podcast, that's great as well. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, Marlene the Plant Lady, my YouTube, Everything Gardening. And if you have a question, go ahead and email me, marlenetheplantlady@gmail.com. And until next time, everyone, happy gardening.